Any others? No. Are there any points on the minutes of the meeting any members wish to raise? Could you please indicate, otherwise I'll take the minutes as noted.
We agree the minutes,
Thank
Chairman.
you. We'll agree the minutes. Propose. I'll propose and Councillor Juned second.
Agreed.
Are they agreed?
I think it doesn't matter. Chair, to be fair, you don't need to be present at the meeting to actually agree the minutes, but agreed.
Right, we'll move on to the redeployment procedure amendment. I'll ask Mrs Dolman to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a paper to consider an amendment to the redeployment procedure. The Council's had a redeployment procedure probably in excess of 20 years now, so it's a well-established policy and procedure within our staffing suite. Currently, the procedure provides for two elements of protection for staff. The first is an element of pay protection, that if they move to a new role through no fault of their own, either redundancy or as an ill health or disability redeployment, they're afforded the opportunity to have their pay protected for a period of 30 months, subject to that being no more than 2 grades below their current spinal column point. And in addition, we award 12 weeks payment for other contractual payments, and that would be things like car allowances that are associated with a specific post. As I say, that procedure's been in place for many years, and we've recently identified as part of a restructure, which we will consider as your next item on the agenda, an area which isn't covered, which we feel should be covered. So to explain that in a little bit more detail, the majority of our staff work on a Monday to Friday contract, working between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on our flexi time scheme. Many of the roles which would traditionally be 7 days are outsourced. So, for example, our leisure centres, many of our housing staff, when we transferred our housing stock, sheltered wardens, things like that. So we've never had a situation where a restructure has proposed moving somebody from a Monday to Friday contract to a contract which requires them to work weekends. And in addition to weekends, this isn't in the report, but something which JCNG really helpfully pointed out yesterday, and it should be extended also to include bank holiday working and potentially shifts that go beyond 7 p.m. So having given this some consideration, we feel that this should be an area that we offer protection to individuals on. It would be a substantial change to their individual contracts of employment if they've been used to working Monday to Friday, and then we're asking them to work 7 days and weekends. And we've given consideration particularly to the impact of what would happen if we didn't afford this protection. And the impact could be that we could lose members of staff with significant skills, knowledge and experience from the council. And, you know, as this group has discussed many times before, we know that we are having significant difficulties with recruitment and retention. So we want to make sure that where we have got good staff with excellent skills, experience, knowledge, that we retain them wherever possible. The proposal before you is to put in place a protection period for that Monday to Friday working pattern of 30 months, which would match what we already do for pay protection. We did consider alternative periods of time, but that felt a little bit arbitrary, given that we already have a 30-month period of time in place. We also consider from a legal perspective that that gives a good and what the law would call a reasonable time frame for somebody to make alternative arrangements if they already have arrangements at the weekends, for example, for caring responsibilities. It would also give them the opportunity, if that really isn't what they want to do, to apply for other roles within the council. So it gives 2.5 years for them to look for other roles, again still enabling the council to retain those skills and experience. So that really is the proposal on the table, to add to our corporate procedure an opportunity for staff to be protected for 30 months if they work Monday to Friday and are being asked to work 7 days, including bank holidays and evenings. So I'll stop there and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Shenton.
Thank you very much. It's just in line with what I asked yesterday, JCNJ, and just for confirmation, if you like, for the camera that, and the minutes, that this procedure, if you like, is more than generous in comparison to other authorities, and it has been agreed by unison. Yeah.
If I can respond to that, Chair. Excellent point, Councillor Shenton, thank you. Yes, at JCNG yesterday, Unison were in support of this as a proposal, as you might expect. Sorry, Councillor Shenton, remind me your first question. Oh, yes, the generosity. It is, and I think an important point to make here is that in your newly agreed council plan, one of your objectives is to become an employer of choice. And of course, we have some very limited areas where we can look at that, given that salary isn't an issue for us. So we really have to look more holistically about the offer we give as an employer. My suggestion would be that this very much supports that aim.
Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say that I really do endorse the steps that are being taken. We have some extremely valuable members of staff with extensive skill set. We also need to look at succession planning and that side of things. And I think it's utterly critical that Stratford District Council is considered a very caring and thoughtful council, particularly from a recruitment perspective, so it has my wholehearted support.
Are there any other questions, comments? Councillor Wally-Hawkins.
Just to say that I hope you're going to be advertising these facts in the usual magazines of the authority, as we could be trend-setting for the future, and therefore that raises our profile amongst other potential employers, like my other colleagues across from me now. I fully endorse this, and I thank you for the quality document that we have before us. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Juna.
Yeah, given that there is no other questions, and given the general around the court, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Seconder. Councillor Wilkins first. So, can I take both recommendations as one?
Together, yeah.
So all those in favour? Anyone against? No. Onto the street scene and parking restructure. Could I invite Julie Lewis to present the report?
Thank you. So it's perhaps already been touched on in what Layla's mentioned earlier, but this report's about restructuring what is known as our street scene and parking teams. So these are one of the teams that sit within my service, and they're managed by the Environmental and Operational Services Manager. And they look after basically everything from grounds maintenance to fly tipping to parking, that's the district council's car parks, street cleansing, bin collections, and probably quite a few other services that I probably just forgot to mention. We are a very, very small team. We have the equivalent of 3 full-time staff in the street scene team, commonly known as grounds maintenance and waste collections and street cleansing. And we have 4 4 civil enforcement officers with 2 supervisors that look after the car parks. Within those posts, and I've been here just under 4 years now, as long as I've been here, we've never managed to actually have a full team because we have not been able to recruit, particularly in terms of civil enforcement officers. That's the ones that go around looking at car parks. It's not the most attractive job in the world. We've really struggled to recruit. They do already work Monday to Sunday, and we've run short, very short, for as long as I've been here. At the minute, we're running 2 full-time staff short. So These proposals actually started quite some time ago, in fact, when we were going to merge with Warwick, and what we were looking at was how we could make better use of our very, very limited resources, accepting, yes, we'd all like more resources, but what can we do better with what we've already got? And at any one time, we could actually have 5, 6, even 7 people go to visit the same place to actually deal with something. So a car park person could go and look at a car park, someone else could go and look at some weeds, someone else could go and look at an overflowing litter bin, someone else could go and look at there might have been a noise complaint or if someone got a license. So, that's all those officers going to one place. How can that possibly be an efficient use of time? So what we looked at was how do we make this service look a lot better? So we started with a blank piece of paper and looked at, right, can we make those staff area-based so that rather than running around such a huge district, they actually, look at one particular area and they can look at everything in that one area while on that patch. So, covering all those services that I mentioned before. Linked with that is the fact that we are not a Monday to Friday service. If we have a nice weekend, this weekend, you know what it will look like over on the Wreck, over on the Bancroft. We don't have any staff out there kind of, if you like, reacting or dealing with problems as they arise. The first we'll hear of them is Monday morning when, we get the complaints, etc. So we are very much a 7-day service. Craig sat behind me and myself, frequently deal with issues at weekends, but we haven't got, other than our CEOs, anybody out and about. So it's taken a long while to get to this point, but we completely and utterly restructured the team within the current budget and the current resources and looked at, right, how do we make this team work differently? So the proposals you've got on page 15 of the appendix actually looks at kind of having 2 teams, and we have area contracts and enforcement officers that have particular patches that they look after in the district. The aim of that is that they'll also make really good connections and relationships with the ward councillor in that area, with the parish clerks, so that we have more eyes, more ears, more people that in that area that can actually say to us, by the way, this was an issue, or have you looked at this, whatever, so that we can build those relationships. The staff that we've got, I talked about those 7, that doesn't go very far on a district our size. We are a huge district. Just the travelling itself is an absolute massive kind of use of time to get from one area to the other. So what we've looked at is completely restructuring the team so that we've got multi-skilled staff, and there will be an element of retraining, so they know exactly what they're doing, that they are area-based, and that they work predominantly. We're not asking them to work 7 days a week, but they do work some weekends to cover our more busy periods. So to that aim, we put together a full new structure. That went out to consultation with the staff involved on the 5th of February. I think most of them really recognise that this was a very positive way forward. We're aiming to make their jobs more attractive. We will have some vacancies. Hopefully that will mean, we might attract staff because they're a bit more exciting jobs and they're out and about. And for some people, they'd actually rather work weekends if they've got childcare issues or other issues, at the weekend. It might well suit them to actually work different days. So this restructure went out to consultation. That concluded on the 5th of March. And what you've got before you are the full kind of results of this consultation to actually move forward now and actually start this restructure and put it in place with these new staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I first of all ask Appendix 4 on the blue paper? And I want a yes or a no answer at this stage. Are there any questions or comments on the information on the blue paper? In which case we'll have to go into exempt. If there aren't, we can carry on to... If there aren't any. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments, please? Councillor Rock.
Thanks very much. And thank you for that review, which I thought was absolutely excellent, if I may say so. And I think the philosophy behind it also is excellent. And I would pick up the point about we've got 1,000 square kilometres here, huge district, and trying to manage everything, you know, from the centre and moving it away to a regional-based provision is a really good idea. I would also say I had experience in a corporate environment of introducing multi-skilled teams to do things together. And I was going to ask, I'd got in my head the question about retraining and scoping, but you covered that. So I don't really have any questions. They're all comments, and I think they're all covered in what Julie said. So thank you very much.
Anything else? Councillor Wally-Hoggins?
Yes. Can we go to whether the restructuring consultation, the feedback, particularly a bit about the requirement for wearing a uniform being removed? The reason I'm raising this is that I do believe that our taxpayers have a right to be aware of when people from the council are on site. You know, it doesn't have to be a heavy uniform, same trousers, boots, jacket, etc. But it could be just like a jacket that one puts on with, you know, with Stratford street scene or whatever you want on the back of it. I do think that would be useful, really. Yeah, I think, you know, that's. Thank you.
Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, did you just want me to respond to that point? Just to clarify, with the uniform that was questioned was actually the uniform that the civil enforcement officers, the parking team wear, because they have to wear a uniform to actually issue those tickets. And the interpretation was that everybody would have to wear that uniform. Those that are issuing tickets do need to wear that uniform. Where we removed that, and this was a clarification point, was of the two senior contracts and enforcement officers, and they would of course wear, and they do at the minute, wear logo tops with street scene or whatever on them, so they do have something on, and obviously they also wear their council badge. But that was the concern, particularly with regards to the civil enforcement officer side.
Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. In view of the extension to 7 days from Monday to Friday, which I think is an excellent idea, I'm just obviously concerned about staff rotation and that sort of thing in terms of who works when. Is there likely to be any flexibility for when you actually come to look at budgets for next year to be able to increase the size of the team, having had a sort of trial period to see how it works, and also, most importantly, how it actually fits with the team's views, so that it, you know, there is hopefully going to be some flexibility, because I think it's quite, it's very extensive to suddenly change from a 5-day working service to 7 days. And I would just like to see if there's any extra provision that can be made to give the support to those members of staff and the team to account for sick leave. It could cause, could have mental health issues on sick cover, suddenly changing their routine and daily work. I'd just be interested to know what potential provisions may be looked at slightly in the long term, and obviously to take a very sensitive approach to this new restructure, which clearly is very important. But as with any change is always difficult, and particularly staff morale, which I'm particularly keen, is a high priority. Thank you.
Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the reason you heard the paper before this about the protection of Monday to Friday for 30 months was to protect, we have 2 staff that currently work Monday to Friday that would have moved on Monday to Sunday, and that's why we've brought that paper forward, to protect them for 30 months so they don't have that change for just those reasons. Ironically, one of them has indicated actually he might want to work Monday to Sunday because of those very childcare issues, you know, I mentioned earlier, and it might suit. And of course, we are flexible on that. So, you know, we've been absolutely mindful of, yes, we are changing things, but I think we've taken quite a lot of steps. We've done a lot of consultation. We've worked with the team to try and bring them with us as to where we want to be. So, you know, in terms of the civil enforcement officers already work across 7 days, so it's not a big change to them. And obviously, we will have quite a few vacancies, and we'll be recruiting new, and they are the terms and conditions of the job. I think in terms of what you said about resources, I couldn't say, well, we wouldn't welcome more resources for more staff, but we work within what we've got, and that was our entire aim of the restructure was, this is what we've got, how can we use that better? Now, I will absolutely say that if we actually managed to fill all these jobs, we'd already be running with significantly more staff than we're currently running at, because we have been struggling to recruit. So certainly this will need, you know, there are not going to be changes overnight. We're proposing that we start this structure from the 1st of June. There will be a significant period of retraining. There will be a significant period of change. There will be quite some time needed working with parish councils, with district ward councillors, you know, to start to make this work. It is not going to be, you will see a huge difference on the 2nd of June. So I'll just manage expectations there. And I think in all reality, we're going to have to recruit some of these posts because we know we haven't got as many staff as we've got, you know, as we've got posts for. That's going to take time. So, you know, I think we're probably looking at 12 months before we really know if we've got this right and how well it's working. And we do have, let's not forget that we have we do have our contractors out there, and the aim of this is to actually monitor that our contractors are doing what they're supposed to do, not to actually do the work of the contractors. So this is about making the best possible use of the resources that we've got. And I think we need to give it, you know, those 12 months and really see how well this is working and if we've absolutely got it right. Thank you.
Can I just ask, do you want to come in?
Well, Sarah first.
Councillor Waller, yeah. Councillor Waller-Hoggins.
Yeah, this actually might be for you, Mr. Buckland. Ms. Lewis, I think this is an outstanding suggestion here. It is right and proper that we have correct cover over weekends for this type of thing. And, you know, I commend the work that's gone into this. However, it does actually set a precedence, does it not, that we could now use and look at what Ms. Lewis has done in order to provide 7-day cover for enforcement matters over weekends and bank holidays, because that is something that continues to be sadly lacking within this district. And again, this is a measured approach that's been done. It's been I'm quite sure it's been quite a difficult matter to manage, but it is still very apparent that we are very, very open to ingress from those that perhaps from ingress from others, that we do need that enforcement team working for 7 days. And I know that that involves very senior executives to be on call. But if we're expecting lower paid officers to do that, then there is no reason why we shouldn't be expecting those of a higher salary to be doing the same. Thank you.
Mr. Buckland.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And I think noted the points that you make there. It is a point well made. The issues I just wanted to raise is that the report the restructure does result in the threat of redundancies. That's why it's in front of you today. I just wanted to bring that particular point out. If the restructuring is within budget with no potential for compulsory redundancies, it's an issue that I can resolve on, but because there are the potential for redundancies, that has to come in front of yourself. When we started this process, we were looking at potentially 4 potential redundancies. We've managed now to mitigate that down to 2. We are hopeful that the redeployment policies that we have within the authority will mean that the staff will be, stay with the authority. But I just needed to make you aware of that particular point before you came to your final decision. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Shen.
It's more of a comment than anything else, and it concerns the redundancy costs. Because in 5.2.2, we talk about any redundancy costs incurred will be financed out of savings by delaying recruitment to the new posts initially. I've just got slight concern that with delaying, if the matter of cost delayed it significantly, because the difference between the 30-month, if you like, pay and the redundancy is fairly significant. And that, in theory, could delay it some months for those 2 posts.
Mrs. Lewis or...
Yeah, sorry, my apologies for not clarifying about the redundancy. I did forget that bit. And as David said, we have managed to find alternative employment for 2 already. Going back to that point, and Councillor Shenton, we're looking at a 1st of June start. In reality, by the time we've slotted people in, advertised the vacant jobs, gone through a recruitment process, people are actually available, we'll be 6 months down the line. And so it's not a forced delay, it will be a natural delay as to how long it will take to actually recruit to these posts, which would then cover the costs. So the intention isn't, oh no, we won't do it now, but I think that very natural process, we advertise, we might not get the right person, we re-advertise, it's not a quick process. And that's not because of our procedures, that's just because of people giving notice, etc.
Chairman, sorry, to further clarify that point, this is worst case scenario that we're looking at here. If we are able to redeploy, then that redundancy cost won't be incurred. Thank you.
Councillor Parker was next.
Thank you. Ms Lewis, could you, for a person who's very new to the council, just give a graphical description of what someone working in this new post might look like in a position outside of Stratford itself? Thank you.
Yeah, it's not actually that dissimilar to what they do in Stratford. And what we will do is actually split the team. So there is a Stratford-centric team and a district-wide team. The only real difference between Stratford and non-Stratford, as I could call it, is that we don't have quite as much open space in the districts. We have some, but not as much. But things such as, looking at waste, looking at street cleansing, litter, some parks, the public toilets, the car parks, we have those across all the district. So, the only bit, and we would possibly have 1 extra officer in the Stratford side just because of the Wreck and the Bancroft, which is where our big grounds maintenance areas are. But in terms of what they're doing, things like fly tipping is actually far more dominant in the rural districts. So things like that, the street cleansing, those sort of areas, the car parking enforcement, looking at the car parks, checking everything's right, checking the toilets, working with the parishes. It will be the same role, just we'll probably have 1 more person actually working across the Stratford side than the district side because of the grounds difference.
Trying to come back.
Follow up, sorry. Yeah, I know less than you imagine. And it would be fabulous if you could kind of do a bit of, they get up in the morning, they come to work. Where do they go to work? How do they identify the work that is required? That kind of thing, thank you.
Yeah, it works on 2 ways. At the minute, I think we're a bit more reactive than we'd like to be. So a lot of it is, if we've had complaints in or we'll have parish clerks or people from the parishes, for instance, saying, this litter bin's overflowed for the 3rd time, this week. Or so a lot of it, could be reactive, dealing with complaints or comments that have come in. So, and quite often, if I take a really simple one, like somebody's bin's not been emptied, and that could quite quickly be because it's been presented in the wrong place, and somebody will have to go out and actually look to check that it is being presented in a suitable place, and they'll meet someone from Biffa on the waste side out there to agree some of those things. So some of it's reactive. Fly tipping, for example, obviously that's quite reactive. We get a fly tipping report, somebody will go out, will investigate, photograph, take evidence, actually look at, what can be done before we get someone in to then move it. So there's that kind of reactive side. you know, that's generated really by that feedback that's coming in. The other side that we'd like to do much, much more of is that we are actively checking what is happening in each area. So we love our contractors to bits, but they don't always do exactly what they're supposed to do. So, you know, we have a active schedule that actually looks, did they cleanse that street on that week at that time? You know, has it actually been done? So it's an element of, and again, you know, they'll say, oh yeah, we've cleaned all the streets or we've emptied all the bins, but that doesn't always parry with the information that we're getting in. So some of it is actually checking that our contractors are doing what they should be doing. And then there's the element of, you know, we also do health and safety checks to actually check that, again, our contractors are complying with legislation, that they are wearing the correct PPE, that quite a frequent one we're getting at the minute is waste trucks parking up on a lay-by for you know, a little while together and blocking traffic or whatever. And just us being out there actually monitoring what our contractors are doing, it's very useful. And, you know, Craig organises, they have regular contract management monitoring meetings to actually go through any issues kind of as we see them. We're always striving to make, you know, to make everything much, much better. We want continuous development, continuous improvement. So, you know, it's a case of us also looking at, you know, what our contractors are doing. And we might also pick up, I don't know, you know, some, if there are broken fences, dangerous hedges or whatever, so that we're actually looking and monitoring at things before they become an issue and come to us. There is an element of office work, there is an element of them dealing with all the queries that we get in, because they also deal with the street scene inbox, and that deals with anything from a misbin to a request for a new litter bin in a road somewhere. So they're dealing with enquiries as well as they actually come in.
Councillor Rock.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to pick up on the two excellent points made by Councillor Shenton and Councillor Park, and perhaps join those together, because I'm thinking about the rural areas point, and which I see as a major advantage, and this is about how we can recruit people and that change over time and picking things up. So one question that's occurred to me as a result of that is, and you've talked about, as we go forward, liaising with local ward members and parishes and so on. But when we come to look at the recruitment we need, how are we going to advertise that? Because I think there's a valuable resource there in those local communities through parish council, parish clerks, ward members, making people aware, because presumably he's going to be locally based. Obviously, my area is out in the east, and if we get somebody based out in the east and they live out in the east, they're going to make better and better connections with that, and I'm sure that applies in the Studley area and down in the south and so forth. So when we do the recruitment, I presume we're not going to put it in the local government journal or wherever it is. We will seek to do it through the good offices of people out in locally.
Any other points any members wish to make? So could we move to the recommendation? Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Juned, seconded Councillor Shenton. He got first, sorry. Proposed and seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. That's unanimous. Thank you. So can we move to the staff strategy action plan? I'll ask Mr. Dolman to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So by way of a little bit of background, you will remember that Council approved the new staff strategy back in December, and since that time we have been working hard on pulling together what the action plan needs to look like to deliver that strategy over the next 3-year period. Really what I want to direct you to is Appendix 1, which is, I'm very pleased to say, a really lovely pull-out colour sheet, which has cheered me up more than you would know. Before we go on to talk about it in detail, there were a couple of points that JCNG made yesterday that I just wanted to bring to your attention. Firstly, on line 4, the arrangement of wellbeing events, you can see I've deliberately not coloured in that box. The reason for that is that actually these wellbeing events are continuous since the staff strategy was agreed in December. I think we've had 2 already. We had one last week. I will amend this form to reflect that going forwards. In terms of line 11, the creation of outdoor space, which Unison are very keen to lead on, they are not absolutely sure they can commit to that in Q1, but will do so as soon as they can. So we'll move that back to quarters 2 and 3, and hopefully by the end of the summer we'll be able to get that organised. And then in terms of lines 34 and 35, it was quite rightly pointed out yesterday that it would make sense for the staff survey to happen before we review the staff strategy, and so I will reverse those. Ordinarily the staff survey happens in the autumn, but we will, I think, bring that forward prior to the review of the staff strategy. And then just one further point, which is line 26. Because life moves on, whilst I was drafting this, my colleague Sam Myatt actually was cracking on with sorting out the menopause policy and associated training, and actually although that is scheduled here for 25-26, that will be delivered within the next couple of months, so I will be updating the chart to show that. Just a word really about monitoring. So it was agreed that the monitoring of the staff strategy and the progress and implementation would be in a couple of different places. So management team are going to receive a monitoring report on a quarterly basis, and JCNG and Employment Committee will receive a twice yearly report, and I intend that to be at the June meeting and the November meeting. So this is not a monitoring meeting. This is, if you like, a kick-off report just to show you what we've got so that you can make any comments on anything we've put down. And the final thing really that I wanted to say was that of those 37 activities and tasks, actually 2 things I want to say. Firstly, that 3 years is quite a long time, and actually we might want to evolve and move and add to these as things change as we move forward. So I would very much like to keep some flexibility within this plan so that we can react to changes out there in the big wide world if we need to, or changes in our own circumstances. But the second point I wanted to make that is, of course, really we'd quite like to do all of this just in Q1, but unfortunately we haven't got a 50-strong HR team. It's all really important stuff, and it was very, very difficult to try and decide what priority order we would do things in. We worked very closely with Unison and also with management team to come to what we've got to. You'll see it still is quite heavily focused for the first year because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we think that that's really important, and there will be an extra resource in human resources to help support this piece of work, which is much, much appreciated. So really I'll pause there to take any questions. Thank you.
Can I just say I was pleased to see the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme is coming in Q1, because that was a resolution of the Council a while ago. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Rock?
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. I don't know what EDI external accreditation is. Perhaps somebody could tell me that. Then a couple of questions. Review of BUPA provision. I don't know what that means. I've tried to like an explanation. And also, the very, very last one, consideration of a staff consultation group. Well, I thought we'd got one of those, and it was called JCNG.
Sorry, Chairman, thank you. So, absolutely, Unison are the recognised union, and we managed to do collective agreement with Unison on many points. I think their membership is less than 50% there of the workforce, and we're looking at other ways that we can engage with members of staff who aren't part of the elected, the local union. That isn't to undermine our relationship with Unison at all, it's just to give a staff voice to those not included in Unison. But Layla, I'll address the other 2 points.
Thank you. So, yes, forgive me for adding HR jargon in. That's my mistake. So just line 18, review of the Bupa provision. So currently, the provision we have through Bupa is twofold. Firstly, it provides an employee assistance programme for staff. And what that essentially is a 24/7 phone line that staff can phone for a range of different issues such as legal, financial advice, but perhaps most importantly, it's a resource where they can phone if they need immediate counselling and mental health support. We find that really, really helpful. It's something that we've had for many, many years, and indeed prior to Bupa providing that service, a local company in Leamington used to provide a service for us. The benefit of running counselling through a large company, though, is that it can be completely anonymous. Staff don't have to come and request it from HR, and the 24/7 nature of the phone line means that if they have had a rough week, difficult week, a difficult phone call at the end of play on a Friday and they go home, actually they've got somebody they can talk to over that weekend period. Now, since we introduced Bupa, which was probably about 15 years ago now, there are a large number of companies providing this service, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best service for staff and the best value for money. The second element of Bupa is that we have for, probably about 10 years now, provided a health expenses scheme to staff. And this was originally funded by removing some underused subsistence payments. I'm wondering if David... Oh, well, okay. This will all come back to you, I'm sure. We had a number of payments that were made to staff who were going on site visits, but where those site visits were in the district, they were able to claim a lunch payment, and we found that a number of staff were using that to their advantage, and it wasn't a scheme that really benefited all of the staff. So at that point, with the agreement of Unison, the very strong agreement, collective agreement from Unison, we removed that ability to claim lunch if you're working in the district, and instead put that money into funding the health expenses scheme, which is a relatively low-cost scheme. It costs us, I think, about £30 per person per annum, and allows staff to reclaim expenses for things like visits to the dentist, the opticians, physiotherapy appointments, those sorts of things. And also staff can, at their own expense, upgrade that scheme to cover elements of their family. It's one of the things that we are hoping will, when we get our publicity and our branding work in place, be quite a draw. But again, that's been in place a long time. There are now a lot of companies doing this, and we want to make sure that if we're going to spend this money investing in staff and as part of our total rewards package, that we are getting the best value for money. So that's the Bupa side. EDI is equality, diversity and inclusion. So we have a Respect Champions group, which we're going to be relaunching shortly, which looks at all things equalities related, and was put in place probably about 5 years ago now. We're going to relaunch that because a lot of the members on that group have actually moved on now. But one of the things that group was very keen on, it was us looking at being externally accredited for protected characteristics in a number of different matters. So that's what that covers.
Yeah, I feel I should have known that. So, and I thought that was quite interesting what you said about the sort of £30 a year sort of thing, which is clearly a trivial cost in set against the salary. Something that's not on here in similar vein, and it's a question. Do we pay professional memberships for appropriate and encourage that? I see the chief executive is nodding, because I would encourage us to do that if we don't.
No, he was addressing me this time. Yeah, so we do for one professional membership. If you have more than one professional membership, then the employee is expected to cover that cost, but then that can be reclaimed, a partial tax expense, so you can recover some of that cost. But yeah, we cover one professional membership.
Councillor Wally Hoggins.
Yes, thank you. The Conservatives are, of course, delighted that our proposals to Council regarding the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme has come along at such a pace, really. But also, it's a work in progress, is it not? Because, again, like the recognition scheme, it is it bronze, silver and gold? And, you know, I can see here that we're just looking at quarter one, and I'm wondering how we're going to manage that ongoing, because, again, as part of attracting you know, high caliber employees, which was at the heart of the Conservative proposals, is where are we going with that? And I'd also just like to say that I'm delighted that the EDI external accreditation is going ahead, and I will, of course, want to be part of the revival of that as one of the founding members. Thank you very much indeed, Leila.
So if I can just respond to that. Yes, so the Armed Forces Covenant, actually, just by way of a progress update, I've actually applied for the bronze membership. They told me about 3 weeks ago that it would take 6 weeks for them to come back to me, so I'm still awaiting that. So the quarter one really just reflects that initial piece of work. Of course, there's a lot of work we need to do to continue, and in committing to the bronze award, there's a lot of work around sort of broader really than even the workforce side, about the authority showing outward support for the armed forces, supporting Armed Forces Day, and so there's a lot of work that I'll be doing with the PR team on that going forward. The step up to the Silver Award has its challenges, but we'll look at that in due course as well. Thank you.
Councillor Shenton.
Thank you very much. It's just a comment really that I congratulate you on such a comprehensive action plan. I do notice that 19 of the 37 actions are down to you, are down for you. So good luck, Leila. But it is an excellent plan. I'm also pleased that it's a living document and there's flexibility in it, and you've stated that, and that I find pleasing. And the fact that at the JNCG, there was everybody was quite happy with what they saw. So this is. This, in my opinion, is a great action plan, so thank you. But, as I say, good luck with your 19 of 37.
Any further questions, Councillor Junod?
Just on that note, then, I propose the recommendation.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wally-Hoggins.
Sorry, it is an urgent item. It's entirely in exempt, so we will have to move into exempt to consider the paper at all. So, yeah.
So I'm only going to ask if there weren't any comments.
No,
we don't need to. No.
Well, Chairman, we still do for the decision, to be fair. Chairman, sir. Sorry.
So that pursuant to section 100A, subsection 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended, the public be excluded from the remaining business of the meeting in view of the fact that the nature of the proceedings will be such that if the public were present, there would be likely to be disclosure to them of exempt information under paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the said Act as amended. Can I propose, Councillor Johnson? Councillor Junod.
Just agree what you said, really.
Are we off? Have we all agreed?
We all agreed?